Welcome in, folks, to this wonderful, cozy, heartfelt, a little bit emotional episode of Hit Play. We are the boys. We are the Hit Players. We're here to discuss, in honor of and I guess looking
Respects.
forward to
Yeah.
the upcoming film Barbie, which is a global phenomenon.
Without even being released.
Somehow, some way, Barbie has once again penetrated the mainstream of the American culture. But anyways, in honor of Barbie coming out, we decided to take a look at mainly Greta Gerwig's two feature films. You said you watched, quotation marks around watched,
The ones that she acted in.
some of her acting,
Yes.
which was quite extensive. I did not realize she was acted in so many things.
I didn't either. I
guess it helps when your boyfriend is like a very popular screenwriter.
Yeah, that's true. We also are not going to cover the movies that she co-directed with Joe Swanson.
Right, her very first one in like 2006 or whatever.
A good explanation is because she co-directed them, but they're not available on like any streaming service that we own. So we could not get access to them legally, and so we are not going to review those as well. But for the films she directed on her own, she had amazing success out the gate anyway.
Yeah.
So those are what we're talking about as standalone films.
She's very old school Hollywood, right? Where it just come out of the gate with something just that just grabs the American box office not box office, but like the American moviegoers by the throat, and is like, you will respect me for the next 30 years
while being independent.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. It's very like Spielbergian in a way.
Yeah.
At least early.
You could think of it that way.
Early Spielberg.
Yeah.
But she's very interesting. I forgot what was the context I went to go watch Lady Bird. But she was never really like a director that I was interested in by. Just because of the content of her movies. Because guess what? I am not a 18 to 35-year-old woman. So those movies, don't really catch. That's not what I watch.
Until you saw Devil's Wear Prada.
Yeah. Until I saw Lady Bird, and then I was like, oh my God.
Hey, you have to start somewhere,
So, but yeah, she was, but she was a name that I knew about, right? She's like this new generation of directors, that is it's kind of fun.
She's part of the A24 pantheon.
Yeah. Like with Ari Aster, and I would even put I would put like Jordan Peele in that same category, or at least generation of directors.
Yeah.
So it's very, very cool to see someone's new. It was also just nice just to see someone new. I'm getting a little long-winded here, but
fine.
it was nice to see a new up-and-coming face in Hollywood, because I feel like when Lady Bird came out, which was 2017, it kind of felt like we were getting the same 6 names around.
Yeah.
And also, the Marvels in full swing. DC's doing their thing.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So it was kind of cool and fresh to see
that's
her come out.
So when do we want to start with Lady Bird, or should I briefly talk about the acting that I saw before?
Talk about the acting.
So she has starred in a lot of films. I watched the 3 Noah Baumbach movies on Netflix that she stars in, although she has been in many of his films. So I watched all 3 of these films after watching Lady Bird and Little Women. And I watched Frances Ha, and my first impression, no spoilers for these other films, but my first impression was, she's just that character. Just that's what she does.
Yeah.
Now, truth be told, Noah Baumbach movies don't really do it for me. I don't really connect with them personally. He's been compared to Woody Allen, who I've enjoyed his older comedy movies.
Woody Allen, that is.
Woody Allen, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a greater comedic element, I feel like, to Woody Allen's New York movies, whereas Noah Baumbach movies kind of ride that tragic comedy line that is basically what everyone does now. And I would just like the straight comedy.
A little too real world,
The little
real
too,
world
the,
for you.
Yeah, it's one thing when, in the Woody Allen film, they're upper middle class New York elites, but they're all idiots
Yeah.
who constantly make mistakes. Noah Baumbach films, they're all upper middle class New York elites, and they're all idiots, but you should sympathize with them because of that. And it's like, well, if they can afford this, they can afford to mess up and take the L and move on. Like, I don't know. I don't really vibe with movies like Frances Ha. Just kind of after half an hour, even I was just like, all right, this is just not for me.
Yeah.
Greenberg, also kind of same reaction to it, although it takes place in Los Angeles for the most part, I believe. And then White Noise, I think was a good change up in terms of acting in these Noah Baumbach movies, because she plays feels like she plays a character in that film, whereas to a certain extent in Frances Ha and Greenberg, it feels like she's playing herself, or at least she's playing Lady Bird, or she's playing Joe from Little Women. In White Noise, she's playing a character, and I've read that book. I love Don DeLillo. I have thoughts about that adaptation on its own, but just in terms of the acting, I think it's like everything out of that movie. It's the best version we're going to get, I think. And that is not exactly a compliment. But nevertheless, what I have gathered based off of these 3 films is she does one character, and she does it extremely well.
Extremely well.
And it makes sense why she works with Timothée Chalamet, because we have said the exact same thing about him too. Saoirse Ronan, I think, has a lot more range than Timothée Chalamet. Yeah. But that niche is spot on for her, I think.
She's found like a web, I guess you will, of the types of movies that she make.
It's like Manic Pixie Dream Girl movies, but from the Manic Pixie Dream Girl's perspective. And what's interesting is, I think for Frances Ha specifically, I think Noah Baumbach does the same thing, but
that's why they're such a good couple.
That's why he does. Yeah. Well, he's not a woman. And so there's just a missing extra context from his films that I just don't really think hits the mark for me. That Greta Gerwig just understands better
for some reason.
Yeah. Maybe because to a certain extent that just is who she is as a person. I haven't watched any interviews. I haven't watched any podcasts or read anything about
her talk
from her.
Yeah.
But the fact that I just see this pattern across every film that she's directed and the ones that she has starred in, I can only assume that to a certain extent this is just an extension of her personality.
Are we getting an edgy Barbie? Is that what we're doing?
I still hope not. The
trailer of like Barbie and the fancy, or like the typical Barbie dress up is like the first 15 minutes, and the rest of the movie she's goth.
That would be funny.
That'd be a funny left turn.
I still hope that's not the case, but nevertheless, I think if you watched Frances Ha or Greenberg or any of the other films that she has starred in before watching Lady Bird and Little Women, I think your impression would be the exact same.
You just understand who she is.
Yeah.
More or less.
Yeah. And credit to Noah Baumbach to this degree. If Greta Gerwig is nothing like her characters in Frances Ha, or Greenberg or Miss America, then, those are just very down to earth, realistic, like people in those films, to the point where they might even be improvised. And to a certain extent, maybe it is. But nevertheless, I think it's so down to earth and real that it's just who she is. So, nevertheless, we will move on to Lady Bird now. Since you have the first-hand experience with Lady Bird, since this was my first time watching it.
This was your first. Oh, yeah.
How about this? Instead of you talking about your experience, question me based off of whether I had the same experience that you might have had.
Yeah, what was your experience like? What? Okay, so
Like,
you
what-
heard me.
what-
You heard
what
me.
surprised you the
You
first
heard
time you
me chatting about this. I think
Yeah.
we talked about it, or I did at least when we did
Coming of age.
Coming of Age.
That's
I
correct.
believe. Don't check that out, by the way.
It's too old. Yeah, those are all going to be private one day.
So when I did my whole spiel on it, and I've mentioned it here and there before, along the way, and then, so what was your expectations, I guess, heading into this? Did it, the way I describe it, hit the mark, or was it a little bit? Because sometimes, people, I mean, we've talked about this where like somebody will go, "Oh my God, this is the greatest movie of all time. You have to watch this movie." You watch it, and then it's just mid.
Yeah.
And you're like, why did I waste? I mean, that's why I just stopped listening to movie recommendations altogether.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, nobody recommends movies based to others' tastes. It's always like, which I
Yeah.
guess, there's something to be said about that.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's
I
one
don't
thing
know.
to be like,
I
I like this movie, and it's another thing to be like, I think you would like this film.
I've learned to, depending on who it is that's recommending.
There's a
I
grain
guess.
of salt.
Yeah.
Sometimes
just
a grain of salt
kind
is
of-
like the weight.
All I'm
of
saying
the
is
ton.
if you liked the Fast and Furious past 6, and then you try and recommend me a movie, I might not take that recommendation to heart. But anyways, back to the topic at hand. Was the recommendation founded? Was it? How was it for you watching this?
I think I said this in the coming of age episode that coming of age stories is not a genre that really hits for me a lot, and that is purely just in terms of
Personal taste.
relating to them, personal taste, based off of my high school experience,
Sure.
which I don't relate to like any coming of age movie whatsoever.
It's like probably most people.
I
I think that's the thing about. I think that's the thing about coming of age movies is we project because that's
Yeah.
what we wanted to like. That's what we wanted
It's
to
wish
do.
fulfillment for kids,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah, I think
At least like
Boyhood-
60% of people. It's probably a higher
Yeah.
percentage.
Boyhood is probably,
Um,
I think, the one film that I like the most out of all those because I actually related to the
Yeah.
character.
Yeah. You grew up.
Yeah.
You grew up to be 18. Yeah.
I grew up to be 18. No, it was the Ethan Hawke
Oh,
character.
Ethan Hawke was your father. That's
yeah,
right. Yeah. I forgot.
he was my dad verbatim.
Yeah. I forgot.
But when you talked about Lady Bird, I remember thinking distinctly like that is probably just going to be my experiences. This is people who like coming of age movies will like Lady Bird, and I won't because I don't like those kinds of stories.
Sure.
There's a certain paint by the numbers when it comes to
Yeah.
coming of age stories that you expect. The character might want to impress a certain person, or the character might try to, go to a big event, usually prom, that they think is going to be really meaningful.
It's very formulaic to a
It's
degree.
formulaic, but you like seeing the little nuances in how each different movie approaches it.
Yeah.
And certainly with Lady Bird, the expectations I had going into it were met exactly as I thought they would be. What surprised me was, I guess I would say, like the order of events in the film.
Yeah.
Because, for example, we had spoken about Timothée Chalamet, and you spoke about him in that film extensively. I didn't expect him to show up until I expect him to be like the plot throughout the film was her relationship with him. The fact that he only shows up for like the second third of the film.
He
I was
pulls
like-
a Guy Pearce.
Yeah, he pulls a Guy Pearce. I like that. Her, like the story with her and the other theater kid.
The Beanie Feldstein character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot his name in the film. I thought that was funny. I enjoyed all that. And then, interestingly enough, when the Timothy Chalamet character came in, I feel like it started to turn into the kind of paint by numbers coming of age film. It doesn't help for me personally that Lady Bird, the character, just got on my nerves.
Yeah.
But it also didn't help that her relationship with her mother is the exact relationship I have seen so many other people have with their mother, that I was like, this is almost unbearable to watch because I have secondhand
You're getting
experience.
secondhand
Yeah,
PTSD.
pretty much.
Yeah.
And so in many ways, I think the way that the film surprised me the most was the fact that I appreciated it for those moments that were both really funny and too real.
Mm-hmm.
Which sometimes with coming of age films, they always try to get too real at a certain point because you got to grow up at some point.
Yeah.
But the way that her relationship with her mom plays out, and then the way the film ends that relationship, well, I just remembered what the actual ending of the film is because I didn't like that. Spoiler alert for Lady Bird, but this isn't really that
It's
big
like
of
a
a
6-year
spoiler.
movie.
Yeah.
It's a very popular
When
scene.
she is at the airport and her mother misses,
Mother doesn't walk her in.
mother doesn't walk her in.
Yeah.
I was like, 10 out of 10 right there. That is exactly that's what I would do. That's the ending that I like 100% expected to have.
Yeah.
And then
it keeps going.
It keeps going, and she has further conversation with her mother, and I was like, okay, fine, I get it. You have to end on a good note, I guess. Never mind the fact that that is never going to be the final good note in real life.
Yeah.
That relationship is
Or at
real,
least that early.
or that early. Yeah, you're going to be in your 30s or 40s
Yeah.
by the time you actually reconcile with somebody. But like I get it. You know, it's somewhat of a happy ending. And the themes of Catholicism, I felt like were very well spliced in throughout the film. I'm not from a super religious family, but they are Catholic, and so I always appreciate. I wouldn't say I always appreciated, but I get it. There's that kind of reoccurring like, I don't like this, but it's what I know, so I come back to it kind of sentimentality. But overall, I mean, it's not a 10 out of 10. It's maybe around a 6 out of 10 for me. Maybe solid B tier, but considering most of the classic coming of age stories are a straight F for me, it's a good film.
Does it better than most. Yeah,
it
that's
better
what I
than
would
most.
say with these two movies is like there's substance to them, right? It's not a classic Seth Rogen,
Well,
Dave Franco, like
Yeah.
coming of age type, Judd Apatow type movie. It's,
yeah.
there's actual heart and authenticity to it that I think that a lot of, or probably, a decent amount of coming of
Yeah.
age movies just fail to replicate or even just acknowledge the emotion that comes into telling a story like that.
Yeah. Well, I guess what I should say too is, since I criticized Noah Baumbach for writing tragic comedies, I shouldn't praise Greta Gerwig for doing the same thing. I feel like in the case of Noah Baumbach, sometimes it feels like he's writing about other people and trying to make their lives tragic and comedic. Greta Gerwig, it feels like, though that's, like I said, that's just her.
That was her therapy.
Yeah. And so there's a lot more, of a sense of personal involvement in the comedic moments and then also in the tragic moments that makes it tied together to seem more complete, as opposed to sometimes you watch material that tries to be comedy and drama at the same time. I say tragic comedy. I think dramedy is the actual word. Dramedy, not tragic comedy. That's a little too academic. But yeah, the dramedy stuff. Sometimes you watch it and it's like a mood whiplash The way it's like you're laughing in this scene, now you're crying because of this scene, and that just it never hits the mark when they want it to seem like, oh, isn't it this like such high art the way that you were laughing 5 minutes ago and now crying in this scene? It's like, well, no, I'm not crying because this isn't emotional whatsoever because I was laughing 5 minutes ago, or I wasn't even laughing because it wasn't funny to begin with. Small rant. That's all I'll say. But do you not feel similarly about Little Women?
To what degree?
You enjoy Lady Bird? It was a great introduction.
Yeah,
You feel
I enjoyed
like?
it.
Did you not have a? Do you feel like Little Women was a step up, a step down, or even keel?
I feel like it was pretty even keel. Her strengths in Lady Bird are amplified more, I would say. Like her witty dialogue, her ability to pace scenes really well, and to allow that to kind of like
Nothing feels,
boost
yeah.
the comedy at times, where it's fast cuts of like the four sisters talking to each other in one room, and it just goes back and forth, and the dialogue's overcutting and all that.
Yeah.
So stuff like that I think is jacked up to the nth degree, and it
Yeah.
I personally enjoy stuff like that, but then there's
You would love white noise then.
but at times I found it to be a little too on the nose, which I get, right? She's making a movie about women during that period, and she's trying to relate into this period and try and show connection between how women aren't what's the right word? I guess respected properly in today's culture. Not saying I disagree, just saying that's how I interpreted that. But I felt like at times there was like, okay, you are just giving me a 6-minute monologue. Really well acted, really well shot, beautiful shot. Me personally, not a fan of the on the nose stuff. Not a fan of it. But that's just a personal flavor, and that's about a lot of
I
things.
see.
So I think the emotional beat gets a little driven too hard at times.
Yeah, after about the 20th scene in a row of character has expectation is broken, slow piano music plays in the background, emotional turn.
Yeah.
That happens. Maybe the second half of that film is that exact scene structure for maybe half an hour. Once I noticed it, I couldn't stop noticing it.
It gets a little too much.
Yeah.
A little too much for me. It's just kind of, let's cut that out and let's just keep it going. We have a good pace here going. I will say this, it was interesting, her decision to use a flashback.
The non-linear story.
Yes. Yeah. And it is interesting that she parallels that with the story of the Saoirse Ronan character leaving, and then
writing
that is against Saoirse Ronan's character coming back home. And I thought that was really interesting and really well. And like on her way home, she's hitting all these. She did like a Slumdog Millionaire, where it's like these little things are just these are flashbacking to them. And I thought that was really cool. That was a really interesting way, because biopics, which this isn't a biopic, but for the sakes of purposes, let's just say it is, or at least that's how I think of it. Right? It's at least of the author.
It has the structure almost of a biopic.
Yeah. So it'd be a little boring if it was just like from the beginning all the way through, and it's just like, am I watching a documentary? What is this?
What's funny is when I started watching it, I was thinking I would have preferred this if it was linear. And then I realized if it was the case, this movie would probably be 3 more hours long.
Yeah.
For like, in a weird way, because it's a nonlinear storytelling, it just focuses on what feels like those specific moments. And I've often talked about how I hate the narrative device of characters turning around, but this works in this story as a tool because that's the entire plot. Is she comes back home. And so using that narrative device to then tell the story of what was home like and what is home like
Yeah.
is, I think, and I've never read the book Little Women.
Nor have I.
Nor have I. If I did, I would have put it out there in place of White Noise. And so, from what I have read and gathered, this subplot of her being a writer is not in the book, I believe.
I don't think so. I think that's false.
It is in the book?
It is in the book.
It is in the book.
Because
I almost thought that was too on the nose.
there's a decision she makes at the end that like is
different,
a branching, but it's because let's see.
Okay,
I think so.
didn't think it was, but that's basically just to say that I haven't read the book itself. So in terms of if the book is structured like that or if the book is narrative, I don't know. If the book includes the subplot of her writing Little Women, then I probably will read that book because I actually think that's really cool if that was done. But to the point about the structure, I think that I like the nonlinear structure in this film. I ended up liking it by the end of the film and looking back on it. So I actually think that was done really well. I think you're right about the scene pacing, and the it's very repetitive, and it I don't think it's on the nose because they explore each individual character. It's not just one character going through the same thing over and over. It's each individual character having their own separate moments. It's played out like the exact same structure every single time. And so that gets repetitive and a little grating. But nevertheless, each character is so individual. They're so individual and they get so much respective screen time and development that it doesn't feel like one character is too underdeveloped as another. A really good point too is that all the side characters, because they show up in each individual character storyline, they get no development, but they feel so much more real.
Yeah.
Because it's like
the Timothy Chalamet character, especially.
Yeah, where it's like the way he acts with one character versus when you see him with another character is his development, even though we never see his life beyond his interaction with those characters. And the same goes for his father or grandfather, I think. Or there is Emma Watson, her husband. He appears in so few scenes, but yet he's like he has an identifiable personality, because in those scenes you do see him, he just acts the same way. Yeah.
It's really smart.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, I don't know if the book is like that, but it works well in the movie. I like this much more than Lady Bird, personally.
I think so too. Yeah.
I think part of what I liked was it lent more into the sentimentality, where I feel like Lady Bird was kind of riding that line just between cynical and
angsty teen.
Yeah. That sliding scale. Whereas Little Women feels like it is just like, nope, this is just a pure, authentic melodrama, which
she leans into heavily. Not to TOO, like into.
She leans into it heavily.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, it was a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
I think I liked it. And it was I'll say this too. A good period drama. Like, there was no sense sometimes when directors do like genre films, there's a tendency for them to approach those genres in whatever their style is. Classic example is Stanley Kubrick, who made so many different genre movies, but he has such a style that is just consistent throughout all of them. But if you compared, the approach to Lady Bird versus to the approach of Little Women, her actual her directing style is so much more invisible in Little Women, it feels like, because there's so much more room for settings and environments and how characters interact with one another. And the staging is just so much more three-dimensional in Little Women than it was.
It's very
before.
theatrical, I noticed
Very
at times,
theatrical,
especially
yeah.
with how she's moving the camera, because I think she acknowledges that the camera is the audience. So we need to, like, if we were on a stage, right, what do I want this set piece to be? And so she's like, well, let's start the camera just pointing towards the sky, and then, like, something will fly across it, we'll track it, and we'll move it into this next set piece. And you're like, where was that at, Lady Bird? That
Bird-
is so cool.
To be fair, I mean, with a smaller budget, Lady Bird probably didn't have much else to
Sure.
work with. Lady Bird also is kind of that, like, Wes Anderson-esque, like, it's almost, and I don't think that Greta Gerwig is a bad director, but Lady Bird leads into that kind of Wes Andersonification of A24 movies that I have derided on this podcast before. I think that Little Women was a far greater step up.
Yeah.
In terms of everything.
Do you know she talked to Spielberg about the set decoration?
I did not.
How to, what was it? She asked him for advice on, like, shooting a period piece. So obviously, I mean, Spielberg
Lincoln.
has so much
Yeah.
experience shooting period. I mean, Lincoln, Schindler's List,
That's true.
stuff like that. So I thought that was, I mean, Indiana Jones. So that was pretty cool to be like, yo, wise old sage, teach me your ways.
That's funny. So how would you also compare, you feel she has two collaborations with Saoirse Ronan and Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there is director-actor chemistry across these two films?
Yes, but I also feel like both of them are being typecasted.
To an extent. Yeah. I was thinking about that. I was coming home from work and I was like, if Barbie starred Saoirse Ronan and Timothy Chalamet, it would be a totally different film.
Yeah.
It would have to be.
Yeah.
You can't do this bright, hot pink Barbie with those two actors.
Because she's very, well, at least in her roles that she's known for, she's very headstrong and stubborn at times, and kind of, to a degree, tomboyish. So I feel like Greta is, and she doesn't appear to be that way in real life, which is even funnier. But I guess, it's called acting for a reason.
Are you talking about Saoirse Ronan?
Saoirse Ronan, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I feel like Greta is just using that to her advantage. Where it's like, well, you've already done that before. How about you do it in the 1860s?
Yeah. there was an extent where this film felt like Lady Bird, but in the 19th century.
Yeah. When she started fighting with Florence Pugh, I was like, oh, this is exactly Lady Bird. And I feel the same way about Timothy Chalamet, where it's just like, where's this handsome young man? And
I liked his character.
Let's
in
have
Lady
him
Bird.
be a funny, like
a weird little man.
heartthrob, I guess, to a degree.
I liked his character in Little Women much more than I did in Lady Bird. But
yeah,
I feel like
he was less insufferable.
I guess I in terms of like his acting, I feel like to a certain extent maybe it was just how the character is written in Lady Bird as just that kind of stone cold, like emotionally unavailable kind of person, but I still don't feel like Timothy Chalamet pulled everything out of that character that there is in that kind of performance. Whereas I feel like in Little Women, he seems to just like, he almost like enjoyed playing that kind of, mess.
Very, very charming.
Yeah.
In this movie, very charming.
Charming, but like he got the distress in that
Yeah.
character right too.
Yeah.
In those scenes, the when they're on the hillside and he confesses his love to Joy, and I'm like, where was this in like any other thing I've seen? Like,
Where was this in Dune?
yeah, where is this in Dune? Like, I get they're totally different characters, but like, still, there's like, I feel like there's more passion here than what
Yeah.
I've seen.
No, for sure. And I think she's a really good actor director. I'll say that.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
probably her biggest strength, is able to pull that out of people of like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because I mean, Saoirse Ronan's best performance. I think so. There's an argument there to be made. Definitely one of my favorite Timothée Chalamet performances, and everybody knows how I feel about him. But I think the one I was most impressed by was Florence Pugh, of just like, because that character is written specifically to be the tragic comedic character.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's not dramedy, that's actual tragic comedy. What happens to her?
Yeah. So it's her timing and her ability to just switch on a dime in takes.
Yeah.
Like the camera is still pointing at you,
But the emotions
and
change.
you can see inside of her things change to
Yeah.
where she can, and then she portrays it obviously on screen. And you're like, whoa, that's talent.
Yeah, that's an actor with talent, with a director who knows how to bring it out of him. Pretty
So,
much.
I had wished we had watched this before we talked about actor-director collaborations.
Yeah,
Because
that's
this
fair.
is definitely one of the collaborations I want to see happen again.
Yeah. Well, it feels like, and again, I don't know anything about Greta Gerwig's approach to directing, but with ensemble casts, and I would qualify this as a large enough ensemble cast with all the big names in it. And this might, again, have to do with the Wes Andersonification of Hollywood, but oftentimes there's two kind of ensemble films. There's the first kind is all these famous people, and they show up and they either are playing themselves or playing exaggerated characters.
And they show up for like 5 seconds.
They show up for 5 seconds, but it's just the actor.
Yeah.
And then there's the kind of ensemble film that, in a weird way, it almost reminds me of like Boogie Nights, the way where it's like you have all these people, but something in how they're individually directed fits the actor so well that they don't come across like a cameo. It's an actual like cast. It just happens to be a lot of freaking actors all at once, But
A lot of big names.
yeah, but when the characters who have so few scenes or lines, like the Ant character,
Meryl
Streep, and then
I think she has like 4 lines.
yeah, and Laura Dern as well.
Yeah.
When they are just as strong in their few moments as Florence Pugh is that how her last name is pronounced?
I think so.
Okay.
That's how I've been saying it for a while, and I don't know. I'm not really bothered to
As
check
she
it.
is in, the consistency across the acting is a massive compliment to her.
Yeah, it's Pew.
Yeah,
Had to double check. Sorry.
to her directing. I was gonna say my favorite unexpected performance was Emma Watson, because
She actually got to act.
She actually got
for
to
the first
act.
time ever in her
Yeah.
Hollywood career.
basically that was why I was like, maybe Emma Watson liked the book, maybe she wanted to be in this film for some particular personal reason, but she stepped away from acting basically for most of her career post Harry Potter. She doesn't really do that, and so like to see her acting again, it was like, oh yeah, I forgot she's an actor.
You exist.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
just that you exist,
Yeah.
but that this was something that you at one point set out to do,
Yeah.
and because you're good at it, and also I just like that character. Her and her relationship with her husband was just wholesome, and I liked that. I thought it was, a good contrast to the complete hectic mania that is every other sister in that family.
Yeah.
So that was, and also to a certain extent, Emma Watson is, I don't think it's unfair to say this, maybe except for Meryl Streep and Laura Dern, a far more massive name than any other actor in that film, that to be able to still keep her at an even keel with everybody else.
She doesn't overpower the screen.
Yeah. Even when
Even
you know
if
it's Emma
she
Watson.
is, yeah, even if she's Emma Watson, but also she's playing the older sister. She's the eldest.
Yeah.
So it's like, that should be a disaster automatically. Of like,
Oh, this
we're
is
gonna
just
have a
Hermione
lot.
2.0.
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of Emma Watson.
Yeah.
And it never really felt like that.
Yeah. She.
I guess it helps that we started off on the Saoirse Ronan character.
That's fair. The only thing that bothered me about Emma Watson's acting is she still had the British accent.
It threw me off.
Yeah.
she there's moments where it slips.
Yeah.
'Cause she tries her hardest to keep the American accent. And I think she does a pretty good job.
It's been
But
too much
there's,
time
like,
since Bling Ring, and
Yeah.
now.
There's like one or two scenes where I'm like,
Yeah. It felt like every scene for me, honestly. I don't know. Maybe
I
that's
did enjoy the what was it, when they have that club meeting or whatever, and when they're in the attic and they all drop their American accents for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That was pretty funny.
That's true.
They all just stopped acting.
Pretty much. They were like, finally, I can breathe now. I can
it was
actually
pretty.
talk in my
I
own
enjoyed
voice.
it. I enjoyed it.
But no, overall, this movie would be solid A or S for me, because I just enjoyed it all the way through. And the emotional turn that we had right now, from laughing to being dead serious about this film, that is what so many people miss about dramedies.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
immediate turn is what everyone gets wrong.
Yeah.
You don't see that in Lady Bird. You don't see that in Little Women. It's just
very hard. It's hard to
yeah,
do.
It's
Yeah.
such a thin line to ride.
That's why I hold Goodfellas in such high regard, because it does it the best. 1 minute you're laughing with these guys, and then the next it's like,
Scary.
oh wait,
Yeah, that's fair. Well,
this is real life.
there's a difference between doing it for that intention. If that reaction is what you want, then yes, there are hundreds of films that, and not just Goodfellas is good because it does it throughout the film. There are individual scenes in movies where it's just a good moment to do to throw people off. But when your intention is to combine serious with the comedic, doing that is like a death sentence to your tone.
But I will say, in defense of this movie, it does it well because it uses the flashback
Absolutely.
to differentiate the two.
Absolutely.
Right? Because
yeah.
her journey back, she's in the dead of winter. It's blue. It's cold. She's by herself for basically the entire
Yeah.
journey back. So it's very depressing, which is where you get like, her being sad, her siblings being sad, and then them growing up. It's bright. It's lovely. They're all together. They're all having a good time. They miss their dad, but it's still a good time.
2 points. The first point is brief. There was a YouTube video of what's his first name? Bob Odenkirk
Correct.
showing up.
Guy Pearce.
Yeah, Guy Pearce showing up in Little Women.
We should no longer call it Guy Pearce. We should call it Bob Odenkirk.
Yeah, Bob Odenkirk.
That came out of nowhere. Did you know he was in it?
Yes, because
Oh, okay.
And
I
this
didn't
was
know.
I saw a YouTube video like back when this movie came out where it was Bob Odenkirk appearing in Little Women, but with the audience reaction from like a Marvel film when Captain America catches Thor's hammer. They took the audience reaction to that and put it over top Bob
I love
Odenkirk
it. I
walking
love
in.
it.
So I knew he was in this
I
film
love
because
it.
of that joke.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew the Guy Pearce, but that caught you off guard.
Yeah, it caught me off
You
guard.
didn't even look at like the cast list or
Nope.
anything.
Nope.
Not
I was
bad. It was
I
a pure experience.
didn't even know Meryl Streep was in it
I didn't
until
either,
she
actually.
pulled up, and I was like, "Whoa, that's Meryl Streep!"
Yeah, yeah.
11-time Academy Award nominated actress.
Anyway, yeah. That's just a funny little aside. The point about the flashbacks playing well as comedy is because they're flashbacks. It's not funny comedy. It's sentimental.
Yeah.
It's like nostalgic, And I feel like the reason why it plays better as a dramedy that way is because you're not ha laughing, I'm telling a joke. You're laughing in kind of like this is sweet.
You're laughing at their interaction.
Yeah.
Which I think is
It's
hard to do when you
it's
have
a
four
sweet,
really,
wholesome
really
kind of
well
comedy.
actresses like that. And being able to, oh,
Oh no, Lee Harvey Oswald. All right, we're good.
being able to do that. So, I have a more profound respect for Greta after watching these two movies. I'll say that she is a director I watch with interest.
I have an intense fear for Greta going forward because
Do you think she's gonna go the Marvel route where she's like, they're like, all right, here's She-Hulk.
yeah,
We're gonna try it again.
I don't want them to do that, and I'm worried that this is a thought I've had a lot recently that it seems, I don't know if this is a trend, but it just seems to be the pattern. This is just career projection for a lot of directors in Hollywood of get your start indie, do a big blockbuster that is almost like passion project levels of just here's a bunch of money. What do you want? We'll give it to you. You've proven yourself. Now do it with $1 billion this time. And the pattern is it fails. It is, does anybody even talk about Babylon? Damien, the dude who did
Damien Chazelle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, because it was here's $1 billion. Oops, sorry, actually, your vision can only sustain itself for smaller films. The amount of examples I can think of stops itself because they all bombed.
Yeah.
I can't move on from that. And it's like you just turn your tail and you go back to doing independent films afterwards. It's like sometimes, I don't want that to happen with Greta. I would even say a good example would be Alfonso Cuarón, where it was like,
with Gravity.
yeah, where it
Yeah.
was like, here's $1 billion. What do you want to do? We'll throw all the money at all the technology you need.
Yeah.
Actually, I just go make independent movies, So, yeah, I worry about that a little bit.
But I don't know, because for every one of those examples, there's a Denis Villeneuve, Tarantino to a degree. I mean, Nolan. Nolan was
yeah.
an indie movie maker until he did Batman, and now he's his own franchise.
Yeah, well,
PTA, I feel like could have gone that route, but I think PTA is just so pure-hearted.
He knew what he wanted,
That he was just
yeah.
like, I just want to make whatever I want.
you know what it was with Paul Thomas Anderson? It was Magnolia.
Mm.
It was here's all the freedom you could ever want in the world with no notes.
And he said no.
And he
Or
did it.
Did it.
And it was like, all right.
Mixed.
It was totally mixed. And to a certain extent, I feel like to a certain extent, because we haven't seen it with, I forgot how to pronounce his last name, Damien Chazelle.
Right? La La Land?
Yeah, we haven't seen what he will do after Babylon.
Yeah.
And so the reason I think I fear for Greta Gerwig more than I do with other directors, people who step into making Marvel movies now, people who step into making DC movies, it's like you're stepping into like a corporate franchise. Barbie is not a passion project. It is a physical entity sold by a company. You're just helping sell it.
Yeah.
And so if we give you $1 billion to do that, and it's going to succeed no matter what at this point. But
wow, we don't know that. Disney's been taking a couple.
That's true.
Disney's been taking a couple flops.
I see so many memes that I'm just like,
They've had like 5 straight flops or something like that.
that's true. I mean, if the Barbie movie is bad at the end of the day, it will be so financially successful, I don't think it will ruin Greta's career.
Right.
But I guess what I'm saying is there's an ego element to that I'm worried about. The reason why Nolan's most recent films haven't hit as strong as Inception or Interstellar is because, to a certain extent, maybe that ego of I can do $1 billion movies now, I can do whatever I want. Well, where do you stop yourself at that point? Tenet barely made sense to anybody who saw it because it was like
To be fair, Tenet was released during COVID.
during COVID, yeah.
And
then
Dunkirk still made half a
Dunkirk
billion
too.
dollars.
Yeah, but there's an element of like, I don't know. Maybe this is just a
Are you
fear
speaking
I
as an
have.
artist or as a?
As an artist?
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
You know, where it's like, where is she gonna go after Barbie?
Yeah.
Because
Well, that's the exciting part.
that's
We
the
don't know.
exciting part. But I think I fear
That's
because
gonna be cool.
I talk about her directing style becoming invisible during Little Women, where it feels like she was slipping into this period piece.
Mm-hmm.
I'm worried our entire artistic identity would become invisible after Barbie, where she just becomes the, all right, I'll make this next corporate movie, I'll make this next Marvel movie, I'll make this next DC movie,
Yeah.
And so that's just, it's a poorly articulated point that I
see what
feel,
you're saying, though.
but nevertheless, yeah, that's what I would worry about, because sometimes I'm like, where's the director like PTA who says, no, I'm just going to do independent movies for my whole career?
There's no money in that anymore.
There's no audience for that. Yeah, shout out to Xavier Dolan, by the way. Poor guy. Love his movies, but yeah, poor guy. Where he was like, nobody watches my movies, so I'm just going to quit. There's no point
I mean,
anymore.
he's not wrong.
He's not wrong, but at the same time, it's like, hey, man, there's respect for
It just
people like that.
feels like if you're not in the
Franchise game.
yeah, if you're not in the wheels that turn,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't know. I feel like we're starting to see the market start to autocorrect because both Little Mermaid, Indiana Jones, what's the last? Elemental, the Pixar movie. What else? What else? I feel like there's something that's Star Wars that just flopped too.
Oh, The Flash.
The Flash. Thank you. How could we forget about our boy Ezra? But you see all these studios start to just have these. I mean, Indiana Jones, for some reason, was made for $250 million. And you watch the trailer and you're like, nothing about this movie looks like a $250 million movie.
Watching Harrison Ford half act, not because he's a bad actor, but because the
He's
rest
just
of him
old.
is CGI.
Yeah. And he's just old.
I guess watching half of Harrison Ford act is the better way to say that.
Yeah, it's people don't want to see that anymore, it feels like. So I think I'm starting to get hope again. And obviously we'll see what happens in a couple weeks when both Barbie and Oppenheimer come out.
Mm-hmm.
How well that does. I think it'll do very, very well. I mean, Tenet, even though it didn't make a lot of money, it made money.
Yeah, that's true.
And it was released in the middle of the pandemic, like right when it first started.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this, because I guess if we wrap up Greta Gerwig first, Little Women, probably A+, S- for me. Lady Bird, solid B, I would say. I think she's a great director. I thoroughly impressed with just those two films alone. I think that is a good start.
It's a very good start.
career.
Very, very good start. Now will she do the Jordan Peele?
Now, will she do the Jordan Peele? And the point I want to end on for me is the meme of Barbie Oppenheimer is so infectious
Yeah.
that those movies are going to succeed no matter what happens.
I blame
in
TikTok.
them. I blame TikTok. I blame Twitter because I'm not on TikTok. I'm on Twitter. And so I feel like at the end of the day, it will, when those movies come out, criticism against them will seem trendy because there is so much hype against them that I don't want people to get it conflated that the hype built around the movie should be separate from what's the opposite of hype? Like hate,
Sure.
maybe, for a movie.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Where it's like every time something gets successful, seemingly out of nowhere, people are going to deride it and try to make fun of it or tear it down.
They're the
Criticize
the
it.
cynical,
Yeah.
the cynic, whatever. Yeah. Cynicism.
Yeah, the
I don't
cynicism
know.
against.
Sure. Yeah, there you go.
But it's like, if those movies are bad, if I feel those movies are bad, I'm going to say it, irregardless of, if it's trendy or not, because I feel like to a certain extent, that's also another fear I have for Greta Gerwig at this point. Is every project she's going to do from here on out just going to be a meme, or is it going to have to be now that she can do that?
No, because she shows that she can
She
do
shows
something
that she
beyond
can,
that.
but you're
She's done it twice
you're
already.
the executive of Warner Brothers. You're worried about money. You're worried about what's going to make this quarter for me. Hey, this director over here, if we create this specific scenario for her and market her this way, she will make us bank.
Mm-hmm.
Just do that again. Obviously, if you're
I
a
can
director,
see
you can say no.
why because the Emoji Movie exists. So I can see why. I don't know, man. I don't think Greta rolls like that.
I don't think so either.
I think she made this movie with the purest intention. Obviously,
Yeah.
they gave her a big budget, but when you have the cast that she does,
Mm-hmm.
you are naturally. I mean, like Oppenheimer is the same 100 million.
Yeah.
But you look at the cast and you're like, oh, 85 of that is going just
Yeah.
to friggin' Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
Greta, Barbie was half cast, half pink paint.
I think we're conflating. Yeah, right. I think we're conflating budget too much with just
Like artistic intent.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I think that you can still make a good, like directors have shown us.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
some of our favorites. You can have $100 million, which by the way, $100 million is still a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
That's you'd have to make at least 300 to turn a profit.
Yeah.
And 300 million is a lot of money. So, I think in the day and age of like Marvel movies that were just kind of like, oh, this movie's only $50 million. That's not a lot. It only made 75. Like that's like 75 million is pretty good for an independent movie.
Yeah.
But regardless, I think that she has shown that she is an artiste first and as someone's belt needs to be replaced in our parking lot. And a commercial
Mm-hmm.
director second.
Yeah.
I think she'll go.
She'll ride the line.
Yeah, I think she'll be fine. I think it'll be along the lines of like a Jordan Peele
Mm-hmm.
kind of character where it's like, yeah, we're gonna give you all this money so you can do this cool stuff, but also we're not giving you $400 million.
Yeah.
Like, let's be a little real.
Jordan Peele is another example.
Let's
of
be
somebody who I
realistic
feel
here,
like
guy.
Got the big budget to do something, and
Yeah.
it flopped for us. Most people.
I think it was just we just personally did not
Didn't
like
like
them.
the
I think it
movie.
was just
Yeah,
personal
but-
taste with that one.
I'm only speaking from personal taste,
Right,
really,
sure.
at this
Sure,
point.
sure,
So
sure.
I guess
Sure.
That's
But it
just
was,
a
I
fear
mean,
have.
it caught the zeitgeist.
It
at
did,
the time.
absolutely,
It was
yeah.
a popular
And
speaking point for 2 months.
There's one thing you can say about Barbie. It has the cultural zeitgeist.
Also, Barbie is caught up in this hype as a meme. It's not
yeah,
like
yeah, that's what I'm worried
people
about.
are going, "Oh my God, Greta!" Because nobody, I have yet to hear anything about Greta Gerwig. It is
That's
all
true, yeah.
like Ryan Gosling,
Mhm.
Barbie, Margot Robbie. That's
Yep.
literally all everyone's talking about. So it's not even like a, "Oh my God, Greta's coming out with a new movie.
Yeah.
Let's get ready."
Yeah.
You know, it's just. It looks like a fun movie, and I think people are enjoying the fact that fun movies are back in the mainstream.
Yeah, yeah. I hope it's like in the same way that Top Gun Maverick was just played straight. No ironic, cynical commentary on the original.
Just do fun movies. Just make a fun movie.
sequel. I hope that Barbie is just a fun movie. I still hope it's a kids movie outright.
I think it
know-
will be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially with the whole boyfriend girlfriend scene.
Yeah. I hope that it is just a straight like no attempt at appealing to the A24 audience whatsoever. Just
Yeah.
a kids movie.
No edginess.
No edginess.
I'm sure there will be some social commentary about.
Well,
I mean,
for a kids movie,
The
there
premise
should
of
still be.
Barbie is after being expelled from the utopian Barbie land for being less than perfect dolls, Barbie and Ken go on a journey of self-discovery to the real world.
Oh, Inside Out.
So I think
We've seen that
Yeah.
before.
we saw it in the Mario movie.
We saw it in the Mario. Yeah, it's the Mario movie. So it'll be paint by numbers. It'll be, it won't be schlock at the end of the day, I think.
Sure.
Greta Gerwig is above making schlock.
It'll have some pizzazz to it.
That pizzazz, it'll have a lot of pink. Bring color-corrected lenses on your
Yeah.
glasses or
Yeah, for
something. You're going to walk out of the theater seeing green.
Are you excited to see Barbie? I
Yeah.
haven't seen these two.
No, that's what's funny, and that I think is where my fear is.
Oh, okay.
Because
Are you less excited now that you saw these movies?
yeah, because
Okay.
it's like I don't think it's an example of you had a good thing going, why change it? I think it's you have a good thing going. Are you going to be able to like switch your style now?
Yeah.
I think the reason why sometimes Damien Chazelle and Jordan Peele stand out as you had a good thing going, now you flopped, is because they did the same thing, just trying to be more grandiose about it. And that's why it feels like it didn't land. Maybe I'm totally reading into everything and just seeing patterns that aren't there. I do that. My apologies.
Only one way to find out.
Only one way to find out is to watch it.
Come July, what is it, July 9th? July 21st.
21st.
Yep.
That's just me, though. I mean, what about you? Let's end with your thoughts, your feelings.
I'm not excited.
To be fair,
No, I'm just kidding.
to be fair, you are
Rip
partially
open my pink shirt.
you are partially watching it because I said we're doing it for the podcast.
Yeah, well, I'm purely watching it just for content. I've made that
Yeah.
very clear. At least to you, I've made that very clear. I'm putting this out there now, so that way, if it is good and I do enjoy it, nobody can say I switched up on my switch, or and call me out or whatever. I'll do it, but I don't know. It looks silly to me.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because I'm thinking it's gonna have like this deep meaning behind it.
That's fair. Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens, but
Yeah.
I will go watch it. And that's
to
that.
a certain extent, my excitement for the Barbie movie is based solely pure on my anticipation and expectation. Not expectation, but my anticipation that it will be just a emoji movie level kids movie.
Sure.
If that's what it is, then yeah, my expectation will be met. I don't really expect it to be that, but I don't expect it to be that. I plan for it to be that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
I got you.
I see this whole Wes Andersonification and A24ification of Hollywood and film discussion online, especially people our age, where I'm like, if any of those people were making the Barbie movie, you wouldn't get the Emoji Movie. You would get Lady Bird. You would get, freaking whatever else. Like you would get Blackberry, basically, or Jordan, where it's like, how can we deconstruct Barbie? How can we make it real and relatable? And it's like, here's somebody who understands that Barbie is just supposed to be fun. Here's the company behind it saying, just make it fun. Just make it fun. Make it for the girls. And make it as just generic as possible. And I think you'll have an absolute winner. I feel like in the wrong hands, this would be an experimental flop.
Yeah.
And so...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
This would go the way of, like, G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This would be like Dragon Ball Evolution.
Yeah. We don't talk about that. What movie makes more money?
Barbie, absolutely.
You think?
Absolutely, yeah. I think because Christopher Nolan's... He draws an audience, but the people who know they don't like Christopher Nolan, like you said...
It's not a lot of people, though. That's not a lot of people.
The thing, though, here's the important distinction. You said it yourself. You don't see anyone talking about Greta Gerwig. But people have opinions about Nolan.
Sure.
And so I think that alone, her invisible hand in this film is just going to draw a far, far larger 4-quadrant audience. Even though...
Trying to run the rating.
Christopher Nolan might draw a 2-quadrant audience. And that's still like $1 billion audience.
Yeah.
But Greta Gerwig, not many people know who she is or the kind of film she makes. And Barbie is not going to be that kind of film. And so that 4-quadrant is going to be there for everyone. And if it's a kids movie, then you got grandparents and their
taking them.
grandkids. Like, that's going to make up at least $1 billion, whatever it makes. So I think, I still think Barbie will make more. For
True.
that reason. What about you? As a Nolan
I
fanboy.
don't know, man. It's hard to bet against Nolan. The dude made $300 million in the middle of the pandemic.
That is true. That is true.
It's like, I mean, you go and look at all of his movies, and you're like, how did these movies make this much money? Like Dunkirk made $500 million. Interstellar made over 800 mil. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
He's the hottest working director right now,
Yeah.
and he's. I don't know. It has to be good.
For the meme, Barbie day 1 makes more money. Oppenheimer day 2, everyone finds out they actually dropped a nuclear bomb. That makes more money.
Yeah. We also have to take into account that it's going to be an IMAX, and IMAX is like $20 tickets too.
Yeah, that's true.
So
That's gonna be film purists.
So
I doubt we're gonna be able to get IMAX tickets at this point.
yeah, probably not. It'll be
It'll
It'll be fun.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, you make a good point where it's a kids movie. It is PG-13. Not that matters.
Marvel movies are PG-13.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, not that it matters.
They even get
But,
away with one F-bomb in Barbie. I will be disappointed. The PG-13 is going to be they take their shirt off. Ken has abs. That's
but
it.
Oppenheimer is rated R. You know what? Yeah, I could see it.
Mhm. Yeah.
All right. Well, anyways, any last thoughts?
No.
Cool.
No.
We'll be here next week for an exciting one.
We flip it now.
I have started looking forward to it. Not gonna tease it, but I've been doing my homework. Again. I've been doing my homework for the past 12 years.
All right,
So
calm down a little
This
bit.
will be. Nah, I'm just kidding. All right, we'll see you guys next week.